Okay, you know, the ego is fear. But it's also a protection. Because we have so many masks and we're looking for approval externally, so we live in our ego. Or we live in this personality that we have created to survive in the world. It's not that the ego is bad, it's immature. And because we're immature, often we're not open to receive. So we have a protection and we have an arrogance where we feel that we know everything. That's one aspect of the ego. And that's a pure protection from evolution. One of the worst egos, or the most complicated egos, is a spiritual ego. Because the spiritual ego quotes unity, but has no idea what it is. And it uses it as a protection, so it doesn't have to evolve. Another aspect of the ego, which is very damaging, and many people have this, is a little voice that's always telling us we're not good enough. And it's always pulling us down, pulling us down, pulling us down. And then when we have that reflected externally, we get offended. But it's actually our own thought process. You know, we always think that if we change the outside, we're going to be happy or impenetrable, or we need to fix something. But everything's just a mirror. Be it strong, be it subtle, every aspect is a mirror. That's why I always keep insisting we have to heal ourselves. So we become transparent. So that's the two faces of the ego. Is it important? No. As we mature, and what is to mature? I'm not talking about age. I'm talking about love. As we mature and we start to trust in ourselves, but from a pure place, not from an arrogance, from an open place, which is vulnerable and innocent, we start to break the shell of the ego. And the quicker we do that, the quicker we can fly. So that's the ego. The ego usually has a no, or a protection, or a defense. The ego is not like this. Or it has a act. And a good one that you're mentioning is humility. You know, people walk around like, nothing affects me. Oh yes, well that's your problem. But it doesn't affect me. I'm holier than Jesus. And you can see through that because consciousness isn't like that. Consciousness is very human, but it has an energy and a joy. It doesn't have a, I forget the word, anesthesia, no? Yeah? And that's another aspect of it. And if you think, I don't know how you were, but when I was younger, nothing affected me. I had the capacity not to be affected. I didn't get angry. I didn't get sad. I was basically shut down. I didn't have emotion. And now that I'm awake, I have all my emotions. Like a child, no? Exactly like a child. But they're quick. And humans are meant to have emotion. Because it's the language of the heart. The compassion. It connects us. It makes us vulnerable. And in that vulnerability, we experience everything from a place of innocence. So this is another misconception. That consciousness is beyond everything. Is that enough? Ego information? Hello, that's a nice shirt.
It's such a pleasure to be here.
Good.
It's happening. And I saw this traveling in France and Spain. And not only here. Here is invading. And the thing of the killing of women, no? Feminicide. The killing of women. In all over the world is happening, no? And I can see that it's not justice that will resolve, because it's in isolated places happening, wherever, where it happens, the problem happens, she got killed, and it's very, very sad what's happening. What can you say about it? Is there something to be able to help and to say?
You know, you're talking about injustice. You're talking about violence, domestic violence, corruption. It's all the same pot. Be it children, be it women, be it whatever. Be it black people, homosexuals, Jews. It's happened throughout history. Humans are capable of atrocities. But it's all sad. All of it's incomprehensible. And people think they have a cure. But people have so much internal violence that they project it externally and they kill each other because of fear. Does that justify it? No. It's horrible what we've done. And it's horrible what we continue to do. But the only solution is elevating consciousness. Because people that love themselves don't kill their partners. People that love themselves aren't against certain ethnic or religious groups. People that love themselves don't leave other people starving. People that love themselves care profoundly. They don't just walk past it and ignore it. So for me, the only solution is education, teaching children to love themselves, so they're not habitually copying the patterns of the families. You know, how many children are subjected to violence? Fathers beating up the mothers. And seeing that and being shocked by it, but then repeating it. And the women hide it. And the other way around too. I'm sure it happens to men as well. Rape, abuse, violence. It's not just exclusively a female problem. It's a problem in general. We are violent. We are afraid. We project that externally. Anything that's different, we want to remove because it makes us feel uncomfortable. All of these things have to change. And it all comes from lack. Look what we do to the planet. Why? It comes from lack. All of it. Is there lack? No, there's none. But here there's lack everywhere. So we have to heal. I don't have another solution. You know, if you see something happening, you obviously try to stop it. But on the big picture, people have to speak. We have to have education. We have to have conferences. In 2022, I'm going to a conference of 500 world female leaders. In the United Nations in New York. And I have to select 25 people from South America to go and represent there. Okay, women of power. So there are things happening. Things are happening. But it's slow. The only way to make a big change is education. We have to get them when they're this big and say, now think this, go inside, speak your truth, love each other, give. We have to teach them from when they're very small, not the opposite. Separate, compete, project. We have to teach them. Children how to sustain what's innate. It's not something new. They have it. They're naturally full of love. They don't have prejudices and separations at all. We teach them all that. So we have to sustain the perfection, starting with the children. But it's a big project, no? It's a big project.
More than anything, to be grateful to you and Annie and all the teachers, because really, to come here is always a big hug to the heart. We receive so much love. I did the 6 months last year, and I'm always surprised with all this love. That is incredible. So thank you from all my heart. And question has to do, I heard you that the purpose, the highest purpose is to love oneself, and that resonates, and I try in each moment to practice that. But personally, when we go after a goal or a desire, sometimes I feel that how much we identify with that, not? And there, in some moments, I identify so much, in other moments that, well, but if it's about loving oneself,
you know, this I can explain. You can have a goal, and that's great. You know, you're playing in the illusion. I want to win this, or I want to be the best at that. And that's great. It's great to have these goals. But don't believe that if you lose yourself in that, it will give you complete fulfillment. Because it's never about what you acquire. You have to be integral. You have to be in love. You can have whatever goal or focus, but you have to be here. And you have to be true to this. The minute you start to abandon this, the minute you start to compromise, The minute you lose this because that's so important, you've lost the essence. Because this is the highest point. And everything else has to fall into place. That's all. But you can enjoy it. You know, I'd like to win the World Cup of Endurance. I came 5th, and next year I want to win. I want to win. But I'm not going to lose myself in that. I'm not going to kill my horse to get that. My integrity is much bigger than what I want. Do you see the difference? That's the difference. There's things that are more important. And the first thing's that. My consciousness, my integrity as a person. Because I love myself. Does that make sense? I never abandon my heart. That's the difference. So you can do whatever you want. You know, it's not that we have to be all poor and sitting on top of mountains. You know, going om. No, you can do whatever you want. But don't lose you. Don't lose you. Or your horse.
Hola. First of all, I want to claim something. I thought I was going to lose a couple of kilos here, but I'm going to take the double with me. Maybe I will stop.
I concur. Huh? I put on 1 kilo. Here.
Sí, está todo muy...
So good, everything. My question is, this year I started to study coaching, ontologic coaching, and I had to do a lot of practices with companions, with people, and the only thing I saw is how much suffering that exists in human beings. So I want to know if suffering has a purpose in itself, or is just an illusion. And we suffer because we want to suffer. I don't understand. I want you to talk about that.
You know, suffering's great. Because you get to a point where you don't want to do it anymore. And that's when something drastic happens. You know, there's some people that are highly intelligent and they expand consciousness and they have a calling and they actually don't even suffer. Well, not much. But there's other people, me being one of them, that had to suffer and suffer and suffer and suffer and suffer and suffer and suffer. And then I said, this isn't working. And that's when I changed. Often the worst things in our lives are springboards towards greatness. Could be a sickness, could be a loss, could be a divorce, could be many things. But things that shake us and make us question our values and make us here now. Because most humans are robotically repeating the same things and expecting a different result. And this is how we work. We keep doing the same things and then we get surprised. Oh, nothing changed. We're a bit nuts, no? So we get to a point where we want to really change. So yes, suffering does so. It's better to avoid it, but most people need it before they change. It's like a wake-up. It's like, shh, what are you doing? And you know, it's amazing. People that have everything, but everything, still suffer. I see people in the most phenomenal lives, advantages, families, and they keep suffering. They can't appreciate or see what they have. They keep suffering because all the suffering's here, and it's programs. That's why we come back into the moment. What's wrong in this moment? What's wrong in this moment? Nothing. Just my projection of what's missing. Yes?
Along my life, I've been identifying some childhood way to be. Things that were making more difficult my living, my day by day with my partners in the work or even with my family. And I think that I got to a level that my wife used to say, "You are almost a Buddha." Because I don't fight for small things anymore, and I don't discuss a lot. And when you talk about getting back to the children inside, okay, I know that you are not talking about the children mañosos, but I would like to understand better how can I get it back.
Okay, when I'm talking about children, they live in the moment and they're real. They're innocent, they enjoy everything, they're open to everything. You're talking about the aspect where they're like brats, no? Where they're manipulating and seducing and having temper tantrums. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about that being real, being you, being in the moment, living wrapped in that cocoon of unconditional love, without all the shoulds and shouldn'ts and whys and how comes, and perceiving the beauty. You know, if you watch children, they can spend hours doing the same thing. It might be something mindless to an adult, but they're so there and they're not thinking. They're just playing. They're just here now. They're not in judgment. They're enjoying everything. Everything's a new discovery. And they're open. And this is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the innocence of a child, but with a mature experience. You know, obviously you're a mature person, but you can maybe be less rigid, less controlling, have the capacity to flow more, to enjoy more, to be more vulnerable, to feel your feelings, to talk from your heart instead of protecting your image, to speak the truth. Children speak the truth, whether it's appropriate or not. And this is the aspects I'm talking about. Because when you love yourself, you become the actions of love. And children are the actions of love within the human experience.
Posso complementar? I think that the aspect that is
Creo que hay
probably
aspectos-
harder for me is to make myself vulnerable.
Creo que el aspecto que es más duro para mí es el hacerme vulnerable.
So I ask you, how do you
¿Cómo tú
show yourself vulnerable?
te muestras a ti mismo vulnerable?
I'm completely vulnerable.
Yo soy completamente vulnerable.
I'm like a child.
Yo soy como niña.
I speak the truth in every
Hablo la
moment.
verdad en cada momento.
If I'm sad, I
Si estoy
cry.
triste, lloro.
If I'm angry, I
Si estoy
yell.
enojada, grito.
I don't care.
No me importa.
I'm not assessing the external.
No es que me ponga a evaluar lo externo.
If I'm in front of 1,000 people
Si estoy frente a 1000 personas
and I feel
y
sad,
me siento triste,
I'll cry.
yo me largo a llorar.
I won't stuff it.
No me lo guardo.
I'm completely myself.
Soy completamente yo misma.
Completely.
Completamente.
And some people don't like it either.
Y a algunas personas tampoco les gusta eso.
But I'm always being real,
Pero yo estoy siempre siendo real.
speaking my truth.
Hablando mi
Sometimes I'm sweet, sometimes I'm hard,
soy dulce, a veces soy dura,
sometimes I push, sometimes I pull
a
back.
veces me retraigo.
I'm just real.
Yo soy real, simplemente.
There's no act.
No hay un acto.
That's it. And that's a freedom because you don't have to think.
Y eso es una libertad enorme porque ni hay que pensar.
I don't think.
Yo no pienso.
So try to be in the moment and be more vulnerable.
En el momento más vulnerable.
And you know, when you open your heart
¿Y sabes qué? Cuando abres tu corazón
and be very vulnerable,
y eres muy vulnerable,
everything starts to
todo
change.
comienza a cambiar.
There's nothing to hide.
No hay nada que esconder.
You challenge yourself.
Desafíate.
Challenge the judgments you have with yourself too.
Desafía los juicios que tienes contra lo mismo también.
It's important.
Es importante.
You know, in the 6 months,
Durante los 6 meses
it's unbelievable
es increíble
the things that make people suffer.
las cosas que les hacen a las personas sufrir.
The judgments people have with themselves
Los juicios que las personas tienen consigo mismas
that stops them experiencing love all the
que les
time.
impiden experimentar el amor todo el tiempo.
It's
Es
incredible.
increíble.
It's things you wouldn't even imagine.
Cosas que uno ni se imaginaría.
So small,
Tan pequeñitas.
and to the person it's the
Y
world.
para la persona es un mundo eso.
It's incredible how violent we are with ourselves.
Increíble lo que cada uno es consigo mismo, lo violento que es.
It's incredible.
Increíble.
Hmm? Gracias. Listo.